of Management Studies IGNOU presents an audiobook on the course Mmpc 016 International Business Management for MBA program. Presenting Block 2 International Trade, Unit 6 Regional Trade Blocks.
Objectives. After reading this unit, you should be able to 1. Explain the types of trade blocks. 2. Analyze the reasons behind the upsurge in trade blocks in the recent past. 3. Identify the major trade blocks in the world. And 4. Brief up the history of European Union, which is the largest trade bloc. Introduction. Regional trading bloc, popularly known as trading blocks, is a group of countries within a specified geographical region which specify the common trade policy vis-a-vis tariff, non-tariff issues, and other trade issues such as movement of labor and capital among themselves with an objective of creating free trade area or customs union or common market area or economic union. In short, they are a force of economic integration which increasingly shapes the world trade. Trade blocks can be standalone agreements among several states. Trade blocks fall into different categories based on the level of economic integration. These categories are discussed in subsequent section. After Second World War, countries realized the importance of trade not only for economic development but for promoting peace and prosperity in the region. Free trade initiatives were taken, particularly in Europe, where countries pool their coal resources in order to help each other and avoid conflicts. These small initiatives result in formation of European Union after passing through various stages of economic integration. Today, there is no region in the world that does not have free trade agreements or other initiatives for free trade and commerce. Various stages of economic integration have been evolved, namely preferential trade, free trade, custom union, common market, and economic union. Free trade encourages labor force specialization and also help countries specialize in the areas of their factor endowments. In other words, free trade allows a country to produce and export what it does best and most efficiently while allowing it to import specialized goods from other countries. Thus, free trade helps both sides to save costs while gaining superior products through the exchange of goods and services. Since the 1980s, the trade blocs have spread throughout the world economy under the harmonized and liberalized economic regimes shaped under the 8th round of Uruguay Round of Trade negotiations and subsequently under the ambit of WTO. Compared to 7th trade blocs that were notified to GATT WTO in 1980, at the end of 2021, there were 586 trade blocks. Their numbers has increased significantly after the formation of WTO as nations increasingly realized the merits of foreign trade, providing a catalyzing force for economic growth and development. These statistics show the importance of trading blocks in the present world economy and provide a motivation to examine them in greater detail, which is taken up in this unit. Types of trade blocks. There are various types of trade blocks. These are 1. Preferential Trading Arrangements PTA. It is a kind of trading bloc that gives preferential access on certain products to the member countries. It can be established through a trade pact and is the first stage of economic integration. The tariffs and non-tariff barriers are reduced only on a part of all traded goods. The PTAs are advanced to next stage of economic integration, that is Free Trade Area. 2. Free Trade Area or Free Trade Agreement FTA. In an FTA, all tariffs and non-tariff barriers are removed, exception being some items in the negative list which is mutually agreed among member states. Examples of FTAs are the NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, and India-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement. Rules of Origin (ROO) are framed which specifies the conduct and criteria of value addition under an FTA. Rules of Origin provide protection against malpractices used by firms beyond the member states to export goods at lower rates of duties. For example, when India and the Sri Lanka are FTA partners and offer 0% duties to each other subject to fulfillment of rules of origin criteria, Sri Lanka in turn may have an FTA with another country. Let us hypothetically assume it is China. Chinese firms will export their goods at zero duty first to Sri Lanka, and such goods to have a probability to enter India under India-Sri Lanka FTA. But rules of origin will ensure that such goods cannot enter Indian territory without fulfilling the criteria as mandated under rules of origin. 3. Customs Union (CU). In a CU, external tariffs are harmonized among member states for the goods originating from the non-member countries. Thus, a CU has common external tariff (CET) against non-member states. Because the tariff is the same for all member countries, rules of origin are not required to prevent backdoor imports from non-member countries. South African Customs Union, that is SACU, is an example of customs union. 4. Common market. A common market have all features of a customs union, that is elimination of tariff and non-tariff barriers plus common external tariff, and also have provisions for free movement of labor and capital within the regional economic grouping Central American Common Market consisting of Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua is an example of common market. 5. Economic Union. An economic union is a common market coupled with harmonized and unified economic policies which are coordinated among the member countries. Economic union have common trade policies, common external tariffs, free movement of labor and capital, and common banking and monetary policies. For example, in an economic union, countries normally have a common monetary and fiscal policy and a common currency. The purpose of the Maastricht Treaty was to move the European Community from a customs union to an economic union. With a common currency and central bank, there can be a monetary union with an economic union, for example, Eurozone countries having a common currency, Euro, with European Union which is an economic union. Monetary union is a case when two or more member states have common currency, thus leading to formation of a monetary union. 6. Political union. Political union is the higher stage of levels of economic integration in a regional economic grouping. In addition to economic union, political union envisages the harmonization of system of political governance, that is, single government, one president, one foreign policy, one defense policy among the member states. In nutshell, the member countries of an economic union decide to become a one country. PTAs, FTAs, customs union and economic union are termed as regional trade agreements in the terminology of WTO. Henceforth, we will use the term RTA as a broader term to discuss various aspects of trade blocs. Benefits of trade blocs. 1. Increased production and better economies of scale. Free trade or regional trade agreements enable participating countries to specialize in the production of those commodities in which they have a comparative advantage or factor endowment. Increased specialization in areas of core competency enables countries to take advantage of efficiencies generated from economies of scale and scope, higher productivity, and increased output. 2. Greater production efficiencies. Free trade agreements help an effective division of resources and improve the efficiency of resource allocation. Effective and efficient resources allocation results in higher productivity and increasing total domestic output of goods and services. Firms from the participating countries compete for market share, leading to innovative production techniques, use of new technology, better management practices, and marketing skills and cost-effective distribution and transportation methods. 3. Improvements in employment scenario. Free trade agreements create more business opportunities and investors throng to such cost competitive areas of business. This leads to improvements in employment scenario in exporting industries. For example, with liberalized trade regime in services sector, India has created 4 million direct jobs in software and IT enabled industry. 4. Improved economic growth. Regional trade or free trade agreements improve the overall business environment due to spillover effects resulting in higher standard of living, higher wages leading to increased real incomes, and improved economic growth due to increased consumer spending. Reasons behind the recent upsurge in PTAs. The principle of non-discrimination is central to the formation of the GATT agreement, which is signed on 30th of October 1947 by representatives from 23 countries in Geneva. Article 1 embodies the strong support for non-discrimination, requiring most favored nation status for all GATT members. The only significant exception to MFN is to be found in Article 24, which allows formation of regional trade grouping with the objectives of promoting and facilitating free trade and acting as a ladder to formation of globalized world under transparent and non-discriminatory trade regime. In principle, Article 24 allows members to reach interim agreements so that they can offer preferential treatment prior to the implementation of a full agreement. The first wave of regionalism attempted in the 1960s failed mostly because of the USA, the most powerful nation in the GATT and the chief proponent of multilateralism and non-discrimination in global trade order, was against it. The continuous rounds of trade talks led to mutual agreement among member states and led to more harmonized and standardized trade policies, initially under GATT and subsequently under the World Trade Organization. The various trade agreements under the mandate of WTO provide a platform of enhanced trade among member states. These agreements are futuristic, aimed at creating a peaceful world order, ensuring the participation of all, rich and poor, with special and differential clauses for treatment. The spirit of these trade agreements is aimed at promoting world trade by all means, including leveraging the regional trade agreements among member states. Welfare impact of PTAs. The resurgence of PTAs has led to renewed interest as to how PTAs have an impact on the welfare. Conceptually, they have 4 general economic effects. These are discussed as 1. Income gains from greater specialization of resources and greater opportunities for exchange within the region. These are called the static gains from regional integration. The static gains from trade are the result of the elimination of dead weight losses due to tariffs and non-tariff barriers being removed. There are the 2 kinds of gains. First, the enhanced exchange of goods and services, and second, the enhanced specialization in the industry or work function which originates from the removal of trade barriers. 2. Additionally, there are growth opportunities in the long run, especially from the economies of scale and scope, improved competitiveness of firms, improvements in technology, and inward foreign direct investment flows. These are called the dynamic gains from regional integration. The dynamic gains are expected to be much larger than the static gains from trade. 3. Transitional costs that fall in the short run on inefficient sectors, and immobile factors as firms rationalize and reallocate their activities throughout the region. When prices of a regional partner are lower than those at home, opening up to free trade means that demand for products of the domestic industry will fall. There can be industrial sickness, resulting in exit of certain businesses' firms as the consumers switch over and buy cheaper imported goods from the PTA partner country. As firms exist or downsize, leading to layoff workers, the workers willing to relocate find jobs quickly with the increasing business opportunities in an RTA. Those not willing to relocate, however, may never regain full-time employment. Thus, the free trade has transitional costs. The cost of goods and services fall first before the accruing of prospective potential static and dynamic trade gains. Economists express it as short term pain for long term gain. 4. Greater economic interdependence within the region due to the interlinkages created by trade and investment flows. Such economic interdependence creates sensitivity and vulnerability to instabilities in a trading partner, but also offers potential additional gains from the multiplier effects of linkages with a faster growing partner. For example, if the Mexican economy is more closely tied and linked to the US economy, the more Mexico will benefit from the much stronger US economy. Conversely, a currency crisis in Mexico will have substantial impact on US exports to Mexico. The welfare impacts are expected to be particularly large for small countries because they are price takers in world markets. These impacts are both positive and negative, but the gains are expected to be much larger than the losses. Small countries gain from regional economic integration. 1. Removal of their own tariffs and NTBs on imports from the larger country. As price takers, small countries cannot affect the world price, and so their own tariffs and NTBs are simply reflected in their own domestic prices, causing deadweight losses to national welfare. When the small country removes its own tariff, this creates real gains in national welfare for itself. 2. Removal of the larger member countries' tariffs and NTBs against the small countries' exports. As price takers, small countries cannot affect the world price, so that a tariff levied by a large country falls mostly or wholly on the small country. This means that from a small country, exporters receive less for their products in world markets. When the large country takes off its tariff, this is a real gain for the small country. 3. Gains from economies of scale and scope are likely to be very important for small countries that join an RTA as it gains access to much larger market. For example, Canada joining the Canada-US FTA gained access to the 10 times larger US market. The economies of scale from access to the larger US market were expected to be the primary source of gains to Canada from joining the agreement. On the counter-arguments, some experts say that small countries lose from regional economic integration. 4. The larger gains for smaller countries imply larger transition costs also and further. 5. Small countries are more vulnerable once they join a PTA with large country, since they have to adjust to changes with the system as present in the large country. Trade creation and trade diversion. Let us examine the static gains from regional integration more carefully. First, the economic welfare impacts of a PTA can be mixed. That is, it is not always true that global welfare or even welfare for a member country improves as a result of a PTA. The impact depends upon 1. Trade creation occurs when production is shifted from higher cost producers to lower cost producers within the trading bloc. When the trade barriers are eliminated among PTA members, differences in comparative costs will lead to shifts in trade, production, and investment patterns. According to the law of comparative advantage, production should shift to the lower cost producers, and this would improve economic efficiency within the PTA. 2. Trade diversion occurs when production is shifted to higher cost internal producers from lower cost external producers. This is because the products of the external producers have become uncompetitive in the internal market due to the creation of the preferential trading area. Before the PTA, both inside and outside countries face the same tariff barriers. Once the PTA is formed, only the outside countries face the tariff barriers. Removal of the tariff barriers against the inside countries may give them a competitive advantage that diverts trade and production away from the most efficient producers towards the less efficient. Thus, the PTA creates inefficiencies since trade is not with the overall lowest cost producer. If trade creation outweighs trade diversion, economists normally argue that world welfare will improve as a result of an FTA. If trade diversion dominates, welfare falls. It might be helpful to illustrate the concepts of trade diversion and trade creation with an example. Assume we have 3 countries, Chile, France, and Germany producing and consuming apples. Assume that Chilean apples cost 50 cents each. French apples are 60 cents and German apples are 70 cents. If there are no national tariffs, Chilean producers are the most efficient apple producers, and the law of comparative advantage predicts that Chile will produce and export apples to France and Germany. The world price of apples would be 50 cents. Suppose Germany levies a 15% specific tariff on all apple imports in order to protect its domestic industry. Then, Chilean apples in Germany cost 50 plus 15, that is 65 cents, and French apples in Germany cost 60 plus 15, that is 75 cents. Since German apples cost 70 cents, German consumers continue to import Chilean apples at a price of 65 cents. Between Germany and Chile, French apples are not imported. Major trade blocs in the world. 1. United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement USMCA. USMCA came into force on July 1, 2020 and was earlier known as North America Free Trade Agreement NAFTA. NAFTA was formed on January 1, 1994 and it brought immediate elimination of tariffs on more than one half of US imports from Mexico and more than one-third of US exports to Mexico. NAFTA was the largest regional economic grouping of the world and it is now replaced with USMCA. USMCA commits all parties to end restrictions on member countries for trade and investment policies. Foreign investors are provided a high level of protection of intellectual property, liberalized trade in services, and there are agreements on environmental and labor standards. The US has for long been demanding the reworking of provisions of trade agreements as it benefits its trade partners much more than itself. In order to correct the trade imbalances and to offer more beneficial trade terms for North American workers, farmers, ranchers, and businesses, NAFTA was renegotiated, paving the way for a progressive and futuristic trade agreement called USMCA. USMCA agreement creates more balanced, reciprocal, and trade-supporting provision that facilitates the high-paying jobs for Americans and growth opportunities to the entire North American economy. Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN. It was formed in 1967 but started making progress only in 1970s. Its members are Brunei, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. It has started through partial liberalization of trade in select range of products. The other important step was to identify several regional projects which would cater to the requirements of all the member countries. Each country will have one regional project. It is one of the most successful regional economic groupings after European Union and has been successful to achieve its objectives as laid down at the times of its foundation. The basis of ASEAN's success is its emphasis on three principles of cooperation. These are security and socio-cultural and economic integration among member states. ASEAN has made noteworthy progress in economic integration and created an ASEAN Economic Community AEC by the year 2015. ASEAN Economic Community have combined total population of over 560 million people and a gross domestic product of over $3.2 trillion. Its GDP is further likely to reach to almost $5 trillion by 2027. 3. Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APEC. Formed in 1989 as an informal dialogue group with limited participation, APEC has become a forum for negotiations to achieve the goal of free trade and investment in the Asia-Pacific region. APEC has 18 members: Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, China, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Philippines, Singapore, Taiwan, Thailand, and USA. This is, though, the most sweeping trade agreement in history, committing half the world economy to eliminate all barriers among themselves, but has limited success in practical terms. Some other regional trade blocs are A. Andean Community. The Andean Community is a trade bloc comprising the South American countries of Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. The trade bloc was called the Andean Pact until 1996 and came into existence with the signing of the Cartagena Agreement in 1969. Its headquarters are located in Lima, Peru. B. SAPTA. South Asian Preferential Trading Agreement, SAPTA, is an intra-regional trade agreement of the SAARC countries India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Afghanistan, and the Maldives. SACU. The South African Customs Union (SACU) consists of 5 member states: Botswana, Lesotho, Namibia, South Africa, and Swaziland. It was established through the Customs Union Agreement of 1910. GCC countries. Gulf Cooperation Council is a trade bloc involving 6 Arabic states. These are Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. European Union, world's largest trade bloc. History. The roots of EU go back to the Second World War. Europe was split into East and West Europe after the World War, resulting in a 40-year-old long Cold War. 1949. The Council of Europe is created by West European nations. 18th April 1951. 6 nations, namely Germany, France, Italy, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg, join hands to sign a treaty to run their heavy industries. 25th March 1957. Witnessing the success of Coals and Steel Treaty, the 6 nations expand cooperation to other economic sectors by signing the Treaty of Rome, resulting in creation of European Economic Community (EEC). 30th July 1962. The EU starts its Common Agricultural Policy, giving the countries joint control of food production. 20th July 1963. EU signs first big international agreement, a deal to help 18 former colonies in Africa. 1st July 1968. The 6 nations remove customs duty on goods imported from each other, allowing for the first time free cross-border trade. 1st July 1968. The 6 nations remove custom duties on goods, allowing free cross-border trade. World's biggest trading group is born. 24th April 1972. The exchange rate mechanism (ERM) created, which was the first step towards the introduction of euro 30 years later. 24th April 1972. ERM is developed wherein members allow their currencies to fluctuate against each other within limits. This forms the foundation of euro. 1st January 1973. Denmark, Ireland, and UK formally enter EU, and the count increases from 6 to 9 nations. 10th December 1974. EU leaders set up the European Regional Development Fund with the purpose to use the money for poor regions. 7 to 10 June 1979. EU citizens directly elect the members of European Parliament for the first time. 1st January 1981. Greece joins EU, making the count to 10. 28 February 1984. EU adopts Esprit program as the first research and development program to be funded. 17th February 1986. Single European launches a 6-year program to sort out the difference in national regulations. 7th February 1992. Maastricht Treaty signed and is considered to be a major EU milestone. European Community is officially replaced by European Union. 1st January 1993. Single market and its 4 freedoms are established. 4 freedoms are the free movement of goods, services, people, and money. 1st January 1995. Austria, Finland, and Sweden joined the EU. 26 March 1995. The Schengen Agreement takes effect in 7 countries. 17th June 1997. Signature of the Treaty of Amsterdam built on the achievements of Maastricht Treaty. 13th December 1997. The process of membership negotiations with 10 countries of Central and Eastern Europe starts. 1st January 1999. Euro is introduced in 11 countries for commercial and financial transactions. 29th October 2004. 25 EU countries sign a treaty establishing a European Constitution. 2007. Bulgaria and Romania join the EU. 1st July 2017. Croatia joins EU. 31st January 2020. UK left the European Union in compliance to a referendum conducted in 2016 for this effect. Overall, the EU is the most successful regional economic grouping of the world. In the future, it has to deal with challenges arising out of slowing down of economic activities due to COVID-19 pandemic, aging population, and internal bickering with the group. Europe is facing security threat which is making it vulnerable economically and geographically. Summary. A trade bloc is a free trade area in which tariffs are not imposed among members, but members keep their own external tariffs against non-members. Trade blocs have become quite popular and account for over half of the world trade. Trade pacts signed as a result of creation of such trade blocs have their own grievances settlement mechanism. There are 6 kinds of trade blocs, namely regional trade blocs. 1. Preferential trading arrangement, PTA, trading bloc which gives preference to certain products from member countries. 2. Free trade area, FTA. In an FTA, the tariffs and non-tariff barriers are removed for the member countries except the few items listed in the negative list which is mutually agreed among member states. 3. Customs Union, CU. In a CU, there is a common external tariff for non-member states in addition to all features of FTA, that is, abolition of tariff and non-tariff barriers among member countries. 4. Common market. A common market has the free movement of labor and capital in addition to abolition of all tariff and non-tariff barriers and having a common external tariff for non-member states. 5. Economic union. An economic union has complete harmonization of trade, investment, banking, and monetary policies. It is the highest stage of an economic integration. 6. Monetary union. An arrangement where 2 or more countries share the same currency. 7. Political union. Political union is even a step ahead of economic union, wherein there is one system of political governance in addition to harmonized economic governance under economic union as discussed above. There are over 586 trade blocs operating as on December 2021. Some of the trade blocs like European Union have developed even common currency besides common operating parliaments and trading systems. The major trading blocs of the world are United States, Mexico, Canada, earlier known as NAFTA, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. Regionalism leads to specialization of resources and is accepted under WTO rules as it ultimately leads to globalization, the central objective of rules of WTO. There is a greater competitiveness, trade and investment flow, and regional interlinkages with greater scope to relocate activities within the region. Small countries tend to gain more from regional trade and regional integration as a result of trade creation and trade diversion. Regional integration in Western Europe was initiated with the creation of European Economic Commission. In 1991, Treaty of European Union was signed by European Commission. The Council of Ministers changed the name to European Union. This led to creation of Economic and Monetary Union with a single currency, Euro. 4 bodies govern the European Community: European Council of Ministers, European Commission, European Parliament, and European Court of Justice. In addition to these 4 organizations, European Central Bank has also been added.
You were listening to the audiobook by the School of Management Studies IGNOU for MBA program. Course code Mmpc 016 International Business Management. Course Coordinator Professor G. Subayama. Voiceover by Renuka. Edited by Ashok Sharma. Program assisted by Tarannum Jahan and Jagbandhu Jana. Program produced by Dr. Manoj Kumar Singh. This program was brought to you by Electronic Media Production Center of Indira Gandhi National Open University.